One? Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm going to gavel us in to this Nueces County Commissioners Court meeting and would ask that you rise for invocation and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America and to the Texas flag. Commissioner Chesney?
Let us pray. Dear Lord, as we gather today in your name, we ask that you continue to bless all that are here, all that are serving, and all of the constituents that we represent in Nueces County. Lord, we ask that you continue to help those that are putting together vaccine distributions to be able to get those out to our citizens as quickly as possible so that they will continue to heal and we can continue to heal this country over this situation that we've been in. Lord, we pray and thank you for all that you've given us, all that you've done for us, all the blessings that you have given us in our lives. We ask that you continue to remind us that we are here to serve you and those we represent. Thank you for everything that you've done for us and given us. In your Son, Jesus' name, we ask these things and pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, well, welcome everybody to this January 27th, 2021 meeting. We're here in Nueces County Courthouse at 901 Leopard in the third floor at the Nueces County Commissioners Courtroom. The time for the clerk is 1:14 p.m. And I do certify that all commissioners are present here today, and therefore we do have a quorum. Would you allow us now to have a safety briefing, commissioners? Rebecca, you're here today to make sure that we are all knowledgeable on our safety protocols.
Testing. Oh, yes. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners, and attendees. Our safety briefing for today, January 27th, is being held in the Nueces County Commissioners Courtroom. The restrooms are located on the right-hand side of the third floor atrium past the Human Resources Office. There is a fire extinguisher located at the rear of the courtroom and also 5 additional fire extinguishers located throughout the atrium area. In the event of a cardiac emergency, an AED is located on the right wall next to the Human Resources Office. Participant for today, who will be responsible for dialing 911, will be Connie. Participant CPR certified in attendance will be Dale. And of course, remember, anyone can render aid. In the event of evacuation, our egress route will be slowly down the atrium stairs, proceeding out the doors located on the LaPan Street side of the courthouse and assemble in the parking lot across the street, and it is important to stay together. Should there be a need to shelter in place, depending upon the severity of the shelter in place, the courtroom double doors will be secured and remain secure until given further instructions from the Nueces County Sheriff's Office or other law enforcement agencies. Our guest sanitizer for the day will be Janelle. Our topic for the month of January is 2021 COVID-19 pandemic tips to remain safe, sane, and safe during social distancing. Go for a walk or exercise at home. Definitely go out in nature as much as possible. Only half of American adults today get enough exercise. I myself have bought an indoor exercise machine, which is, I would have never thought of doing that. Make social distancing a positive by taking time to focus on your personal health, your training, your diet, physical activity levels, and health habits, as well as reassessing your work. Know that social distancing can cause anxiety and depression because of disruption of routines, isolation, and fear over a pandemic, and now the vaccinations. If you or someone you know is experiencing either, help is available. Check your list of contacts on email and your phone. It may be a good time to check on your friends and family members' well-being. This will also help you feel more connected, social, healthier, and engaged. Be kind to all. You never know who is struggling and how you can make a difference. And this concludes our risk management safety briefing for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a great safety briefing, particularly since it included our mental health.
Yes.
And behavioral, overall well-being. Appreciate that. Could
Thank
I
you.
have this opportunity the board brought to me at the dais for public comment? The clipboard.
Nobody
There's none.
signed up.
Okay, thank you. I'd see nobody else online either at this time, so I'll move on to the general information report where Melissa is actually waiting online. She can unmute, and she couldn't be in court, so she's remote today. She will be delivering item F1 for the court. Melissa,
Good morning, Judge and Commissioners.
morning.
I just wanted to start by first talking about our very successful day yesterday at the Coastal Bend Regional Mass Vaccination Center. We began our vaccinations. The first vaccination was given at 8 a.m. The last vaccination was given at 5:21 p.m. and we did 5,200 approximately. So that puts us for a total count of vaccinations that have been administered from the fairgrounds close to 15,000. So that's truly amazing. We also have made some adjustments. The site yesterday, we ran operations through Exhibit Hall B versus Exhibit Hall A. So there were some changes, but we did find that the traffic flow worked really, really well. And it's just things that with each run that we do, we can consider changes for bettering our site. We did also add testing to our site. So we have a mobile trailer out there that is able to test any of the staff, the volunteers, anybody that's working the site to make sure that we are site safe and that we are making sure that the folks that are coming into our site are healthy and that our site continues to run. Additionally, from the mega site, we're going to be running on Friday the 500. That's going to be the first 500 we received for our mega site for second doses. So those doses will be run again on Friday. We also had the success of Chief Rocha and his Hot Shot program for addressing the homebound seniors. They were able to administer 108. That's pretty incredible as well. So, and I have a feeling that that's close to an average number that they'll be able to do. But I do think if we can get the allocation increased as well as the volunteer force or his force, that they could potentially do more than that each run. Also, we're continuing conversations with our city partners and our teams on additional sites, as we know that eventually the allocations that we're receiving are going to be in larger numbers and more regular. So we're making sure that we're looking at the best possible options, and that's everything from comfort to logistics, operations, feasibility. That's all of the things that go into planning, and a lot of that it was previously discussed as we started to work with BCFS to create our vaccination management plan. So some of those sites had already been identified. The logistics and operations component had already been discussed. And so as we start to see that those allocations come down, we'll be very prepared to stand up where we need to. Also, Judge is one of many that are working just so hard on making sure that we're receiving allocations, that we're queued to receive allocations, and that our efforts and what we've been able to accomplish so far shows that we should be getting those larger numbers because we have the capacity to do that. And so from our run yesterday, I mean, we had a great photograph that was taken and was put on Wall Street Journal and was featured on there. And we had a student from TAMU CC, a nursing student, right there in the front and center. And so it's really neat to see what we're doing here in Nueces County kind of being recognized at the national level. So just kind of a round of applause to everybody that's working so hard to make sure that these sites are running. Also want to talk about a current effort right now on establishing burn rates for these sites. It's important for us to understand what we're spending a day on these sites And it also helps us make decisions about additional sites and how we'd be able to continue to support that, and how those can also be reimbursed as well. Dale and his team are working very hard on that, but I know they've also reached out to the City of Corpus Christi Finance Department, because we're not the only ones that are out there on that site. So making sure that we get a full comprehensive burn rate of our mass sites, so that we can know what to expect for other sites, and then also for the reimbursement purposes. That's really what I have in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions? Or Judge, did you have anything you wanted to say in addition to what I've said so far?
You know, I think I'm going to open it up for questions first, and then I'm going to just have some closing comments about the opportunities that we have and what, you know, kind of the information that we know from DSHS, from some of the calls that we've had in the last 48 hours. But let's have questions first. Commissioners, questions for Melissa?
So what's the total to date of vaccinations that we have?
So from our regional mass site, we're looking at approximately 14,700, but I know that it's a little bit higher if we rather gather some other numbers, but it's about 15,000 that we've done.
And
that
that's
would be in
just,
five
our
operational
site.
days.
Mm-hmm.
Just our site, yes.
And I don't know if it's you, Melissa, or who's it sending out. There's been so many reports and breakdowns of all this information. But we have it broken down by cities, by communities, as far as where people are coming in and getting these shots. I saw there was people from out of Nueces County, and a lot that were from out of our region, even our area, our region, that were coming in and have received shots, because this is open to anyone, right?
Yes, so our regional site is a regional site, right? But there's nothing that stops somebody from coming to our site. And we really shouldn't necessarily look at that as a negative thing as much as we should a positive thing. That means that people are willing to go from a completely different region to come to our site because it's effective, because it's fast, and because it's just a streamlined process, and we have the allocation and the ability. So yes, we're getting people from all over, but you know, again, I'm looking at that as a positive thing, that somebody would come all the way from San Antonio. And again, we have people that work here that don't live here. We have people that live here that don't work here. And those types of things are always going to create that kind of overlap between regions and where someone's getting vaccinated. Do you get vaccinated where you work, or do you get vaccinated where you live? And so we're going to see this mixture. And as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that all of those mass sites are going to be seeing that same kind of complexity by having residents from other regions coming to their mega sites.
And in fact, I was on a call earlier with CC, our EDC chairman, and he was reminding the audience, so we have over 10,000 construction workers, you know, in our region through GCCV, the Exxon plant, the Steel Dynamics, Cheniere, and, you know, I think it was, I don't know, I can't remember the fourth one, but the bottom line is we forget that people come from all over the country to live and work here because of our industrial corridor. So just another, you know, factor to play in.
Well, like I said, I don't know if it came from Melissa or if Tyner forwarded to us from whoever's compiling this data, but if you can, with everything else that you're balancing out, or when things slow down in between the mass vaccination dates, if we can see, you know, more updates like that, because I think that's helpful when you get so many questions. I know you all do, but also us, just from constituents or people that we're coming across every day. And it's helpful to show which communities have really been able to respond well to this and take advantage of the site that we're offering. So whoever did it, if you can, continue to send those to us so we can, you know, share this, you know, help inform the community how well it's going. And you know, everyone that's gone through it, when I say it, the vaccination site, not really any complaints at all. You know, the time factor, I mean, it's the amount of time to put in, obviously, when you're up against, you know, hundreds or thousands of other people also looking for the vaccination. The ones who have, you know, the sense of frustration, I think I mentioned this at last week's meeting, are the ones that don't get the access. So we all know that that's a challenge. That's, you know, that's a frustration for many people. And but we've put, in place that the number that stuck with me and I shared with a lot of people was the number that you all talked about last week, 600 vaccinations that we had per hour. And so people that I came across yesterday said, how are they going to do 5,000 in one day, much less spread over, 2 days or more? And I said, well, do the math. I mean, it's going to be a full day, 8 or 9 hours, and sure enough, I think it was about 9 hours. So I think we've proven, you all have proven, those that are boots on the ground have proven that we have the ability to vaccinate even more, as long as we get that supply coming in from the state, from the federal government. So as that seems like it's going to open up soon, I just want to encourage people that are listening or watching this meeting today that once we get those shots, you're going to be able to get them. You're going to get access to them. It's just a matter of how many can we get for Nueces County or for our area. And then if you look at other counties in the area who are finally getting their due, but proportionally they're getting a lot more than we are, right? Proportionally, they are getting a lot more vaccines than Nueces County is. So that's part of the problem as well. When you have a county of only 25,000 who's getting already 1/25 of their population covered, when we're hovering maybe 5 or 7% total that have access to these shots so far. So I think that's a big difference when you're looking at comparing us to, say, maybe other counties or other areas. And once again, we have that regional approach where counties are able to kind of take care of their own because they're much more further removed from Robstown. So I know you all know it, but I think, once again, we just need to kind of remind people out there that are listening or watching that those are some of the struggles and the frustrations that we have, right? Because we do have a great plan in place. I didn't realize about the Wall Street Journal. I'm going to have to look that up. That is really awesome. And once again, when you talk about an undertaking of 5,000, that's a tremendous job. So hopefully we can make sure that we have the access to the state like we have. I know the judge has been making pleas almost on a daily basis to keep sending more because we've proven our due. So hopefully we can continue to do that. But thank you all for the work you're doing.
And thank for really bringing up health equity, and that's what I wanted to end on. And I happen to have the stats in front of me, not from they're still working on them from yesterday's, and I hope that we do receive them. So just so everybody knows how we receive them, we get them. I have Peter Collins as a resource from the city of Corpus Christi. The Luminaire, or is, I guess, in charge of running the Luminaire reports. Luminaire is the software that we're utilizing for registration. And from that data, we're able to tell you quite a bit about how we're doing. And I just want to share with you some of the data from the last vaccination, week's worth of vaccinations. And I expect that it'll be very similar this time, but of course we're anxiously awaiting. But again, just to remind everybody, it's 56% female so far, 44% male, 62% Hispanic or Latino, about 28% non-Hispanic or Latino, completely conforming with our own ethnicity demographics here in South Texas. That tells us that we are achieving our health equity for our ethnic population. Over 51 counties represented, and the overwhelming majority, obviously making sense because we're a large urban center, over 62% coming from the city of Corpus Christi zip codes. In addition, I thought this was very interesting. I get a lot of quizzes about age, given that the 1B is both 65 years of older, and also the 1B is also those with comorbidities. So you might be interested to know that out of the first 10,000 vaccines, or the first 9,000 vaccines, almost a little over 60, I'm looking at doing my math, about 62% are over 65. And the rest would be that 1B category that are living with comorbidities, but under 65. So you could be both, right? You could be 65 and comorbidities, but under 65, you can only be with comorbidities. So I think that the data is really powerful, and we've spent a lot of time and I think some good dollars making sure that we have a website where the average citizen can look at this data. They can see their community risk dashboard based upon current data. They can see their profile with this type of work. We link it up to the state's portal, which shows how many vaccines have been allocated all over the state. And then most importantly, how are we doing with distributing those allocations? So one piece of information that I had from yesterday that I gave is, and again, I'm going to explain just a little bit, but we have 48,000 doses, well, 48,525, that have been allocated to the city, to Nueces County. 48,525 so far allocated to Nueces County, okay? And only about 28,000 of them, as of 24 hours ago, have been administered, okay? Out of that, we have done, probably close to 16,000 of them, just us, okay? So it's really important to note that our seniors have also been taken care of from a variety of providers, but most particularly because the state of Texas made it a priority to administer vaccine through assisted living centers, Corpus Christi State School, and other residential homes where seniors live. So one of the things you might have read is that Texas is leading the nation with vaccines administration, so we're pretty great. And then Amarillo is leading the nation inside Texas for administrating vaccines. So the next piece I'm pivoting to in emergency management to share with my colleagues is, okay, where are those other 20,000 vaccines? Where are they? Are they first doses? Are they second doses? So I decided to break that down. And when I broke that down, I can tell you that, including yesterday's, there's about 23,000 first doses out the door and about 6,000 second doses. Okay, so remember, we just started December 19th, and there's a 30-day lag period. So it's going to take a while for your numbers on second doses to really get up there. So I guess what I'm saying is that we have just begun. And we expect there'll be many more opportunities to receive vaccine. But as good as we've done, what we've proven is that we can handle 35,000 a week, just us. And so that was what was so critical about yesterday. And if we were to get 35,000 when they're available, and we don't expect that to happen until potentially March, maybe even, April to work, but it could happen in March, that we would be able to take some of that allocation, run these mega sites a few days a week, but also share that with all these providers that have tentacles all over Nueces County. And that's when we all win. But our seniors are winning because through the assisted living centers and all of the homes and all of the work that the state of Texas has done to prioritize them, we're seeing our seniors get vaccinated. We know there's major gaps, and we started addressing those yesterday with our homebound program. And then there's still other gaps. And I think from the calls that I were just on right before this meeting, that we will see within the next few weeks, there'll be good announcements about other opportunities inside the city limits in order for you to be able to have your senior vaccinated or those living with comorbidities. And that's going to have a different look to it, but it'll be a variation on the same theme. How can we get as many vaccines out to those that are eligible as fast as we can? So anyway, I hope that helps you with the stats and to understand the regional approach.
So,
Is Melissa still with us?
Go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
Yes, Melissa, I got a call this morning from an elderly lady saying that, like the homebound, she called, I believe, the city. Her husband is on a wheelchair, very difficult to get around, or doesn't even get out of the wheelchair, and she has underlying issues. She called the city, wanted to know how she would get somebody to go vaccinate them at their home. And they told her, their reply was, if you're not registered with Meals on Wheels, then you have to make other arrangements. And then they told her, just keep listening to the news. Is there another way they can go about it?
So I actually fielded several calls on my county phone from different residents. I get phone calls from everybody. So I had a couple of folks that called with the same concern, if you will. Mm-hmm. I think it's important, and this is a good time to address it because I know that we have people that are watching. It's important to know that we're looking at a lot of different programs and different things that people have registered on, our STEER program, 211, so many different places that we have to find this information. I think that the Meals on Wheels program is a very well-known, common
Yes, it is.
program. And so I think people know what it is when people are talking about that. If we say we're pulling the data from Steer, I'm not sure that people understand what that is. So we have Meals on Wheels, that's a very common, very well-known agency, and that's why that's easy to message. But it does not mean that we're only looking at that information. And those folks that I've been talking to on the phone, the residents with the same exact concerns, that we're looking at a lot of other data sets. It's not only coming from Meals on Wheels, but Meals on Wheels is known and common so that people understand that there's something that we're looking at. We're getting the data from somewhere.
How long can these people expect to wait for somebody to go check them out or get their vaccine?
So Chief Rocha started his program, and it's really going to be about the allocation, as much of this is. Much of this has to do with the allocations, how much we're getting, when we're getting them. But we're determined, and Chief Rocha is determined to get that program up and running. They did 108 yesterday, and that's just the beginning. So as long as there's allocation, there's movement.
Well, I appreciate everybody's effort. I congratulate you on what you're doing. I've been to the Borchard Fairgrounds, and I think it's working out real good. By the fact that there were, 4 miles of cars lined up yesterday morning by 8 o'clock, that you tell us that the word is getting out and people do want to get their vaccines. So thank you very much for your efforts. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, also for your support.
Hey, Melissa, just congratulations on the work out there. You know, and I've heard good things, that once you get started, the line gets started, it goes real fast, real smooth, which is good. I commend everybody out there that's working and volunteering for doing a great job. The only thing that I hear is the long waits, you know, and people go the night before and everything else. Is there a time that are we looking at where we're going to be able to spread this out, where we're going to be able to use the CVS, the Walgreens, and you know the pharmacy association, where we can utilize other ones, so it won't be such a big line. It can go somewhere else, and probably do more that way anyway. But what are we working on that area? What are we doing?
So that's just one of many providers that, again, we're all, this was a conversation that happened last time, which is until the allocations come down steadily, they're only going to certain places right now. So as soon as we start getting regular allocations, all of those providers that have signed up will begin to receive their allocations. And then again, you'll have a more widespread process, folks that are vaccinating people, everything from CVS to HEB to doctor's offices to our mega sites.
So right now we can utilize 2 or 3 providers in addition to the fairground? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't hear your question.
So right now we can utilize 2 or 3 providers in addition to the fairgrounds to be able to just spur some of that line to go somewhere else. You know, it's just, and there are a lot of seniors in those lines too. I mean, I got a couple of calls yesterday. There are a lot of seniors in those lines. Some will have to leave, and you know, of course, some don't want to use those portable potties. You know, so I think that I just think, and somebody I called also yesterday. I don't know, I'm not too much familiar with that, but about using a code that people somehow create an account number, I guess, where you put all your information. And you don't have to worry about going out there and trying to fill out paperwork. Everything will be on that code. So when you get there, they just put it on the phone and it gives you all the information, all the history of that person. I don't know, you know, I'm just hearing these things out there. I mean, like I said, I'm not familiar with all that. But this is what calls I've been getting as of yesterday. You know, there's got to be a faster way to do it. But once you go in, it's gone. It's gone. You know, you guys do a good job. It's just a waiting, you know.
It's all the pre-waiting, right?
Yeah.
It's all the pre-waiting, because I'm going to tell you, at 533 an hour, that's pretty much as fast as human possible, but it's all the pre-waiting.
Yeah.
But I tell you, to answer your question, so DSHS gives us the allocation for the hub, and the transfers you're asking for really cannot occur, and there's good reasons for that. But having said that, one of the things we've done is gotten permission from them to help our to help Chief Rocha. So every one of those providers, CVS has made a contract with, let's say, McKesson Pharmaceutical or Pfizer. The real problem is that we don't have enough vaccine in the country. Just turn on your news. It's the headline every day. But today or last night, there was movement from the administration to purchase another 200 million. And there's also there's movement that within 2 weeks, Johnson & Johnson will bring up their candidate for EAU, the emergency authorization use. That's going to be a game changer. But Texas only has like 350,000 vaccines. So we are beyond fortunate to be able to get the 5,000. The way we got the 5,000 and we didn't stay at 1,000 was we proved that we could get them in arms like that in one day. So they judge you over how many days you distribute. So we hurt ourselves when we distribute. Let me make sure that makes sense. If I give 500 to 5 different places and it takes them all week to get rid of them with appointments, I no longer have the same metric to the state of Texas. They'll say, oh, she took 5,000, it took her 7 days to get rid of it. Now I can show them it took me 9 hours. It's a completely different, and it's their way. But make no mistake, this community gets allocation through its providers every day. I talked to multiple hospice providers yesterday who have agreed to give us extras that they have. We're able to draw extra. Did you notice that we did 5,224? And did you ask yourself, how did you do that if you only got 5,000? I'm always amazed. I had no journalist ask me that. Maybe you'll ask me that, sir. How is it that you can get 5,224 when you get 5,000? I'm always amazed. So the way that works is that it's skill.
You gotta use them.
It's skill from the draw to get it just that perfect level in the syringe. And if you're really good at it, you can get more out of each vial. You can get maybe 6 syringes instead of 5. And then if you keep working that down the line, you're going to produce several hundred extra, which sometimes gives us an extra opportunity to vaccinate, in this case, 224 more people than we originally thought. Does that make sense?
Also, Judge,
That makes sense. I saw that
I
on
also
TV.
just want to say, just because we're highlighting our mega sites and the numbers that we're doing, it doesn't mean that other operations aren't occurring. Week before last, Amistad vaccinated. They did a drive-through and
point.
vaccinated. So there are efforts that are occurring outside of our mega site. They're just not as talked about right now as the mega site, because this is our opportunity, like the judge said, to show them what we're capable of doing here so that allocation gets larger.
But in the first 30 days, we've had a 13% of our population potentially receiving this vaccine. And this is really incredible. And that's just to Nueces County. Those are Nueces County allocations. So I think unfortunately, we just get highlighted too much, but I think they should start highlighting other great providers like Krista Spahn, the Prompt 2 clinics, HCA, CCMC, Driscoll, and again, many, many others. Even the university got 100, right? So there's a lot of vaccinations going on in our community. Unfortunately, the ones that are just open and not closed are ours. And that's why those transfers are very difficult. You need to stay open to open, public to public. But we've spent all morning working on our next site, logistics, how we'll get it, what kind of quantities can we do. So we're really, quite frankly, in great shape for our next round. But unfortunately, I think you should expect 5,000 next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. And then maybe after 3 weeks, I see something really opening up. But by teaming up with our providers, like we're helping Amistad logistically, we're getting people vaccinated, the people that you worry about, those with vulnerabilities. And so I think that's a really important message to take to your constituents. It's not just us, but we're helping everybody. Melissa, thank you.
Judge, you grabbed my last comment, so.
Okay, well, anybody else for Melissa? Okay, well done, and we'll send everybody the student nurse's photo from the Wall Street Journal last night. I think it's still online, actually.
I'll send it to Tyner, Judge.
Or to Tyner, thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to move on to the accept I'm sorry, the consent agenda, not the accept agenda, the consent agenda, and that's item 2A, ratify the acceptance of a grant from the United States Department of Treasury for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And we have Maria here in case there's any questions.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, but do
wanna
we
hear
have the
that
dollar
count?
amount now on that?
Thanks, Maria.
1 million point something.
The exact dollar amount is $1,078,956.70. So that is Nueces County's allocation. The city of Corpus Christi got an allocation of about $9.8 million. We do have a meeting scheduled for Friday to coordinate so we can make sure that there's no duplication of services, that somebody is not getting rental assistance through the city of Corpus Christi and then coming to our Department of Social Services to receive that same assistance.
And so we'll be working together with our partners, the city, and since there's members here of the audience that I know that would care about this, plus the commissioners I know will care. So you had to be a city of over 200,000 to apply. So all of our other jurisdictions did not meet that criteria. So let me just say that we are pledging to work with all of our smaller communities. I've already spoken to several mayors, and they know that, that we're going to be working with them. So for all of you commissioners that have small towns in your jurisdiction that would not have qualified, this is exactly why we need to team up with the city so that it can be $10 million together. And believe it or not, the city was the first person to call Maria and said, hey, this isn't, we got to work together here. We got to put a big pool of money. So again, heads up to all of us for doing it. By the way, we have the experts in the country that are going to help us make certain that these dollars get to the right folks. You might be happy, Commissioner Gonzalez, to know that the JPs are very active in this because obviously they see the effects of evictions every day. So rental assistance is huge. This does not impact our other allocation to social services, which we got, and it also is very different from the eviction program. You want to explain that, Maria?
So, let me lift this up a little. So yeah, there's a difference between the eviction diversion program that's managed through the state, and that's a collaboration of, I think, like 3 different state agencies. This grant in particular that you're ratifying today is through the U.S. Department of Treasury. So there was a brief call yesterday between, again, the city of Corpus Christi and Judge Benavides, who's kind of been leading, and he was the one that the state had reached out to for the eviction diversion program. From what I understand, and again, we're going to get some more clarification on a call on Friday afternoon, the city did get an allocation only because they're considered an entitlement community, and I believe they got an allocation of about $850,000. It will only be, from what I understand, for the residents within the city of Corpus Christi, only because the city is that fiscal agent of those funds. But it would be used, there is rental assistance as well as post, once a resident has gotten an eviction notice, that fund can be used for those purposes.
Maria,
Again,
do
we're
we-
still kind of working through the nuances of the programs because they are 2 different but related programs, if that makes any sense.
I don't know if it'll cover both areas. You know, I know for the evictions, to cover the rental for the people that are renting, you know, the renters, the rentees, I guess. How about the landlords? I know they're gonna pay with the money that it's allocated, but are they gonna get back rent that they owe, for the landlords?
So I believe the landlords can contact the state now that so the state had a pilot program for this Texas eviction diversion program. They've now expanded it to Nueces County. So the landlords can actually contact the state directly to receive assistance if they so need.
Okay, thank you. Great. Great.
I've got a motion and a second. Are there any other questions for Maria on this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Okay, great. We'll move to the regular agenda items now. Items 8.1 is discuss and consider an adoption of an order updating the Nueces County guidelines and criteria for granting temporary property tax abatements and related matters. And for this, I will pitch a little to the county attorney and also recognize that Sandy Gomez is on the line as a resource for us. She represented She represents this county with regards to tax abatements and the policy. We hired her last year, I believe, 2020. Well, it had to be last year, 2020. I was trying to think of whether we did it in 2019. 2020, because their background in administrative law and public law really is in this arena. So just want to pitch back to the county attorney.
Thank you, Judge. I
Sure.
believe Sandy is prepared to talk with you all. I believe you've received a document to look at as she speaks with you.
Perfect. Can I unmute? Okay, she's unmuted.
Unmuted?
Welcome,
Can you hear me?
Sandy. Yes, yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you. I can see myself behind you, so I
Okay,
think it's
great. That's
working.
kind of strange, right? So Sandy, since we last saw you, we have a new commissioner, and so I introduced to you Commissioner Hernandez. And so if you don't mind for the court, would you just provide your background so that he knows, and then please proceed with your presentation.
No, absolutely. My name is Sandy Helms Gomez. I am a partner at the firm of Hush Blackwell in Houston, Texas. Although I am a sitting girl, so don't hold that against me. I am a partner in the practice of public law, where I specialize in representing local governmental entities like cities and counties and special purpose districts. And I concentrate my expertise really on what I call the business of government. So I work quite extensively with items like procurement, tax abatements, other types of economic development issues, contracting, and general transactional. So that is where Judge Canales first came to know us and know our practice. And I work with people throughout the state that are city attorneys, former county attorneys, and we do this almost exclusively for counties and other types of governmental entities. So what we're going to be looking at today is your updated tax abatement guidelines, which you are required to adopt under 312 of the Texas Tax Code. So Nueces has well-established guidelines that have been in place for quite some time. So this is the renewal of them. So at the direction of the county, there are some proposed revisions to your existing guidelines for y'all to consider and either accept or reject or revise at y'all's discretion. And those items have all been highlighted in the tentative draft copy that you were provided by the county attorney's office and the judge's office, I believe. So I wanted to give you a higher level review of them rather than going through bit by bit, and then answer any specific questions you might have. The purpose of the vast majority of the proposed changes to these guidelines was really to make your guidelines more specific in its requirements for the types of companies and the types of jobs that you are wanting to incentivize or that you can incentivize under your guidelines. So if you see additional definitions or insertions, they are mostly related to things like the types of jobs you would like to see. You would like to see a job that requires benefits, for example. You would like to see a definition of employees that has a certain number of hours that that employee would be worked. You have requirements right now that you have to provide a certain number of jobs depending on what level of abatement you receive. But these insertions just provide for more specificity if you choose to adopt those. The other big change or addition supplement to it is really expanding the types of facilities that you could give an abatement to, and also putting some limiting language on certain types of businesses that you might want to make it clear would not be entitled to abatement. So you see that in the definitions section as well. On ineligible properties, there's a proposed expanded definition. But there's also an inclusion of additional types of facilities, including a research facility, research and development facilities, green industry facilities. So just a host of types of businesses or industries that you may be interested in specifically outlining in your guidelines as being included as eligible for an abatement. One other addition that is included, and it's in the definitions as well as the body, is asking that applicants that are doing new construction or renovations utilize the prevailing wage rates in their construction. That is a requirement for all county public works projects. So that's something you might want to consider requiring of the building as well. And I'm saving the discussion of the actual abatement percentages until I go through these. This also includes a local hire requirement if you would like. It has highlighted in section E. There is a local hire, so you can contemplate having a requirement that they hire so many of local people versus, let's say you required 10 jobs be created by the new company. Well, they could just transfer in 10 new people. That is hugely beneficial and a great thing to incentivize, but you might want to consider that if they were going to do 200 jobs, that they're going to guarantee that 10% comes from the local workforce. So that is something for you to consideration. We've also inserted in here an application fee. This is utilized in other jurisdictions, and the reason is that as Nueces continues to develop, and y'all have so much development coming your way or potentially coming your way, whether it be the tourism industry that y'all are continue to build, the expansion of the port, and all of the refineries and related petrochemical, y'all are really on the cusp, I think, of being very busy. And reviewing tax abatement applications, especially as you have more requirements, can be a very taxing job. And so it is not uncommon to have an application fee. You don't have to have it, and you don't have to have these amounts, but this is just a proposal that this is done in other jurisdictions and something that you might want to consider. So the biggest area for y'all, I think, to consider and potentially discuss, or just determine that you're happy with your current percentages, is section E, section 2E, which is the actual abatement. And it has a big red stop sign on it for y'all. This is your current existing abatement percentage structure. And you'll see that you have, for construction phase, you will provide 100% abatements. You see your percentages that y'all have, 50%, 75%, depending really on the size of the facility and the number of jobs. This is perfectly executable, fine abatement. But this is really the heart of your guidelines. What is it that y'all are willing and wanting to partner up with people and provide as incentives to bring economic development to Nueces? So this is an area where I would encourage y'all to review and decide, are you comfortable with these numbers and this approach? Or would you like to pursue an alternative structure? And there's many ways that you can do this. Different entities do it in different ways. You could make a simple change of that you want to change some percentages. For example, you might not want to give 100% tax abatement ever. You can make a simple change like that. Or you could change the structure to incentivize different types of facilities differently. So you could have, for example, if you really wanted to incentivize a distribution center, you could carve that out and say, if you are a distribution center with certain amount of personal business taxable property, you can get this abatement. Or you could say, if you are a renewable energy facility, and these are completely arbitrary things I'm choosing, by the way, you could say, we want to incentivize that. And so we want to provide them with these abatement percentages. You could also have a structure where you kept the basic structure you have right now, and you could have add-ons. that if they, for example, had their new building met LEED certified green standards, they were a silver building, that you could get an extra 5% abatement for that. You can do any of those things in your structure. And so I would just propose to y'all that this is really, that is the heart and soul of your abatement guidelines. And so I would just open that up for y'all for consideration, and you don't have to make any revisions to it, but we just really wanted to bring to y'all some of the other options that are out there that other entities do, and answer any questions that you might have on the proposed revisions that are already in here. So with that, your Judge, I will turn it over to you and the other commissioners, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I just want to lay the predicate that the point today was not to necessarily adopt these, but we do need to adopt them in short order because that's the compliance with the law. But that you needed an opportunity to actually see guidelines and criteria. And the reason we made this a top priority last year is, quite frankly, the documents that we were working with were the worst I had ever seen legally, quite frankly. And they were not drafted by our lawyer, and they were not drafted by a lawyer. And so therefore, the document was never, ever going to yield good things for us here in Nueces County. And so we worked with Hush Blackwell, because they are the experts and really understand how these policies can be good for communities, but they can also understand how they can be bad for communities, particularly those companies that go into bankruptcy, for instance, and what happens with your abatement. And so I think there was a lot of concern about certain issues like local hire, like the meaning of construction and when construction is deemed to be completed, and things like buy local. And so if you really look at this, I think it's going to be important for us to bring it back, Tyner, and I was going to suggest that, we table the adoption piece of it.
Yes,
But give us a chance to, take it from here, maybe ask for an executive session item with our county attorney next time, give her a chance to, really hear from you
that'd be,
as to
Judge,
what your wishes are. But we got to start somewhere, right? It doesn't just come up. And
Judge, I
so
think
this
that's
is
a
a good
great idea.
opportunity.
I'd move to table until February 10th.
Yeah.
Put an executive session and do
That'd be
exactly
great.
what you've suggested.
That'd be great. So, but this is a good time to ask Sandy any questions. I know you've had a chance to kind of look it over, but I've got a motion and a second. Is there any questions?
Just a couple of questions.
Commissioner Modis for Sandy.
Sandy, it's good to see you virtually. What would be your recommendation? And I know that this will go more into the discussion, but just so we can kind of hear some of my concerns. I obviously like the local hire component. I think that's really important. I think that that's a question we always get from the trade organizations and local labor organizations, that they see these big projects that come into our area, and in particular in our county, though, that they ask, what's in it for us? It's great that these jobs are being created, but are we going to have something that's guaranteed? And that's not always the case. I mean, some companies think that's just a good practice, which I welcome, and I'm glad they do that. But something that's in there that has that part, I think, is really important. But, my concern with all of this would be that you said, we don't have to go 100% on an abatement over so many years. But what's your experience in a competitive market like we face here in Nueces County and in counties surrounding us that may offer? I mean, what would be your recommendation, just with based on companies and corporations and counties that you've worked with, that we're the thing I always hear about abatements is that you need to be at the same level, competing at the same level, right? So if someone's offering 100%, should we be? And I'm not saying that that's not the case. I mean, if we don't go the full 100%, I would definitely entertain that. But does that put us at a disadvantage if we wouldn't be able to offer that and say another neighboring county would? Do you think it's that big of a difference or a deal breaker for, say, just any project that you can think of?
Hey, real quick, I don't mean to interrupt John's flow, but I think I probably need to withdraw my motion to table, because I think technically if you motion to table, you're not supposed to discuss after you make a motion to table. So I'm going to withdraw that, so that I didn't mean to cut
That'd be
him
good.
off, if that's okay with you.
Thank you.
And
We'll
I'll
bring it
come
back in just a
around to it.
moment.
So just
Go
to be
ahead, John.
proper.
I guess I withdraw my motion.
Withdraw your second,
Huh?
right? You seconded it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so yeah, that's it. I mean, just wanted to hear what your thoughts are as we move forward, that may be something I would want, like I said, want to entertain. Do we not go to the full 100% abatement, but would that potentially hurt us in competing with neighboring counties that can offer kind of the same offer, but at 100% full?
Yeah, to answer that question, generally speaking, y'all's tax abatement guidelines are fairly standard. They do not, as currently written, have anything that is particularly an outlier, including the percentages that you provide. I think one of the advantages that Nueces has, and this is just my experience seeing a lot of tax abatements for more rural, non-coastal counties that really do not have as many of the competitive, attractive advantages that Nueces has, is that y'all are much more a destination with fewer alternative options versus if I wanted to put in, for example, a renewable energy plant that didn't really need access to a port. I have lots of options in the state of Texas. But if I need access to certain infrastructures, y'all have that. So I think y'all are a unique taxing entity in the state of Texas, that your competitive sphere is smaller than a lot of your more landlocked rural counties. So I think that you are already on a more competitive advantage, and that your percentages are very fair percentages.
And that's good to hear. And you know, that was one of what we can turn over and work with you and the county attorney and the rest of the court as we bring this, you know, for a future date. Because it's just those questions and others that I'm sure we'll all come up with that are a concern to me. Because, you know, I've dealt with 312s, I've dealt with 313s when I was on school board. And so there's all, you know, and then on the agreement set when we were on city council. So I've kind of run the scope of them. And I've seen projects that have come in that, you know, you have to have every resource available, right? And I think of the one recently that we lost a big project to San Patricio County. That was a big one that, you know, it took every ounce that we had to try to compete, but in the end we lost it. But it's projects like that I worry about, you know. And we were in the running along with I think one or two communities from New Mexico and maybe a few other parts of the country. And so, you know, I get what you're saying as far as we're in a unique situation and we tend to do pretty well. But when you're, you know, this is not just dealing across the bridge anymore. This is across the country pretty much. And so that would be my concern. So just if you can, as we continue to move forward and you work with our county attorney and the judge and with us, that you kind of just keep that in mind. It's just, if anything, just for better explanation, more examples that we can share of why it would be good to go 100% rather than to maybe scale back any kind of abatement to less than that. I don't want to hurt any economic incentives that we have, but if it means, you know, one thing that we always hear from the community also is, well, why are you doing 100%? And I know there's an explanation to it, but a lot of times the perception of that is that we're hurting or trying to burden the taxpayer more. And so if we can have that as far as conversation, I think also that would help better explain as we move forward as the NCDC and the CCREDC and RIDC and others that work on this, you know, on these type of projects, that, you know, we can show that we can be a leader on this, or we can just say, hey, we've tried every effort we can, but there's no sense in moving it because we just have to keep our cap at being competitive. So, thank you, Sandy.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
And Sandy, it's true that because of the dynamics having changed, because we're now the energy port of the Americas, it used to be that you created these so that you could bring business here. In other words, you had to show that you were so different than somebody else. We already have what everybody wants. So the idea is that we could be incredibly unique if we wanted to and just say, hey, listen, we're not closed-minded people. bring us, your project, and let's work together to create the unique incentive that your company needs. And we come up with that together. We don't have to be pigeonholed into a box that guarantees them something that's not good for us. Isn't that correct? I mean, we could create our own abatement for our own unique economic incentive, depending on what that company is.
Yeah, tax abatements are a tool. They are governed by 312. They are not as, what is the 313 process is a much more regulated lockstep process because it requires comptroller approval than the 312, which is what counties do their tax abatements under. And it is an economic tool, is how I describe it. And so it is something that helps you be a good steward of public funds and tax funds and collection of those funds, but also being a strong economic development partner and attracting the types of businesses and employment opportunities that you need and want for Nueces County. That is what this policy is. It's not just a number.
Got it.
And so that's how I encourage, especially a dynamic, growing county like Nueces County. This is an opportunity to consider those things, and you don't have to you can make big or small changes, but it's an opportunity to discuss the tools that you have at your disposal.
Got it. Okay, so now maybe we go back to the motions on the floor.
Everybody else good? Motion to table, sure, I'm sorry about that. Motion to table till February 10th and put in executive session as well, please.
Thank you. Motion and a second, Commissioners. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Thank you. Sandy, thank you. Great to see you.
Very It's good to see y'all too.
Great. Okay. Move that over. Now we're going to talk about just item number 2, which is discuss and consider reclassifying the mental health service supervisor. This is a job code 2908, and it would go from 28 to 31. Hi, Homer.
Hi. Excuse me.
Court recognizes
It's on?
Homer
Okay,
Flores
thank you.
from our Juvenile Department.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, Commissioner Hernandez, good to see you again.
Good seeing you, sir.
I do want to thank you for taking me on today as opposed to next week. I appreciate that. I knew it was a last-minute decision there as far as scheduling the agenda. This item before you, just so you'll know, was presented before the Juvenile Board last Thursday, and they approved it and asked me to come before Commissioners Court. This is the reclass of a mental health services supervisor position. So this position was created about 5 years ago. And basically it has now evolved into a unit, which this position now supervises 2 other mental health counselors and also 3 interns from the university, both from A&M and Kingsville. In addition to the duties of this unit, they've also expanded to oversee the mental health service for the entire department, not just the initial idea, which was just for one of the facilities. So we have a program that works with trafficked youth. We now have programming in our detention center, which we offer drug education, pro-social skills, and life skills. In our long-term facility, we offer general offender services, trauma treatment, and substance abuse treatment. We also have a canine-assisted intervention program that we use throughout the facilities and the department. And last year, we also discovered a human resource need. So whenever we have any new hires, whether it be probation or facilities, we would contract with a psychologist to get an assessment to see if they were fit to work in our department. Well, this position now does the assessments for us, so we have definitely saved some money with regard to that unit or that area. Due to the needs of the department, we do not have the same position duties we initially began with this position. The duties have greatly increased, and rightfully so, to meet the growing needs of our mental health needs of this population. This position mirrors more of a director's position than a counseling position. I'm requesting a salary increase from a pay group 28 to a 31, which represents about $10,000 or 16% increase. The monies for this come from state budget, 100% from our state budget. I'm not filling, or I don't intend to fill a vacant JPO position, which we've had vacant for approximately a year. So the monies will come from that area. Myself or Dr. Economopoulos are here to answer any of your questions, but I respectfully request the Commissioners Court to approve this request.
So move.
Yes, Commissioner.
So move.
I've got a motion and.
Second.
And multiple seconds. And I would ask if there are any questions for the doctor for Homer. Hearing none, I think you've pled a very good case with justification, and we all know the importance of the matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Mr. Flores, I just want to congratulate you for finally having a department on the mental health and counseling for the youth.
Well,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. And it doesn't go
Good
without
job.
y'all's support. We appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Homer.
Yes, Judge.
Hey, Homer, I just want to congratulate you on all that gray hair you have.
It's
when I met
silver.
you. I don't remember it being that color, but congratulations on that.
Well, part of it was when you were there, Judge.
Ouch.
I added to it. I can live with that.
That's fair.
Good to
That's
see you,
fair.
Homer. Thanks for all you do.
The hair jokes, that's fair. Okay. All right, we'll move on then to item number 3, discuss and consider the request from Berezin Crossroads Districts, Inc. to amend deed restrictions on the Corpus Christi Bay Outlets property. And so for this item, we have Sherilyn Boyd with Crossroads District here. I'm going to pitch to Tyner and to Commissioner Modis for just introduction of the item, Commissioner Modis to lead the discussion. Tyner, just set it up for us for the public.
Again, as I generally spoke of last time, the county, when we did our fairgrounds, the original purchase was 162 acres that the stadium and fairgrounds were started on. We retained about 50 acres of frontage on which is now Highway 69. That was sold separately for a greatly increased price compared to what we paid for it. We paid about an average of $3,100 an acre of that farmland out there, and it sold for over $50,000 per acre. As you know, we were excited at the time when the outlet mall decided to come and purchase the property and build upon that frontage road. And as time went by, the outlet mall struggled with rentals, et cetera. And as it turns out, I know them as Stonewater Properties. They also call themselves Berezin, and the Crossroads District, I think, is what they want to call that property. They have purchased it, and as they look at ways to revitalize that property, it was discovered over time that there are some restrictive covenants attached to the property that they want to talk about today. And so I think that kind of sets up the issue, and would turn it over to Commissioner Modis if he likes, or to Stonewater.
Commissioner Modis first and then to Stonewater.
Thank you, Judge and Tyner. I appreciate Ms. Ritchie and Ms. Boyd from Stonewater with the Crossroads District for meeting with me the other day, listening to my concerns and really putting a lot of that to rest. The language which was in our original packet from last week's meeting, has some concerns in how the deed is released or allowed. And so that's one of the things that from what I understand is we'll be able to allow the attorneys between both groups, ours and the Reason group, to work through this, the junkyard and stockyard language. That something that I believe that Sherilyn and Tiffany kind of expressed, that as they work to revamp the outlet area, that's something that they don't want, right? They don't want that type of area to be kind of brought down by a junkyard next to it. Nothing wrong with junkyards, we need them, but when you're trying to bring in a high-end facility with restaurants and other amenities, that may not be so much of a draw, it may be more of an eyesore, right? We have industrial areas for that, and so I kind of share that concern with them, and then my concern about the RV hookups that were established at the fairgrounds and the potential in their future plans for something like a KOA campground, where it would be a kind of a temporary stays, not kind of long-term stays, more temporary. And so we had a chance to talk about that. And so with that, you know, I'm supporting to move forward on this so that we can still have discussion. And as Tyner mentioned to me, we'd be able to bring this back for a final vote before the court. But, you know, I'd definitely like to hear what, you know, my colleagues here on the court have to say, and of course what Ms. Boyd and Ms. Ritchie have to mention as well. I think they will be good partners. We appreciate that they're already established over multiple properties here in the Corpus Christi and Nueces County area. And they're only looking to expand, which was really everyone's vision several years ago, which is to create a great facility there at the crossroads. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why they changed their name, is because that is the crossroads right there at 77 or now I-69 and or State Highway 44. So I think that we, in the true spirit of this, can agree and move forward, and then have, whenever that date can be worked out between obviously the county attorney's office and their representatives, just to iron out any language concerns that we may have. But I think that as we hear more from them, more of their plans, it will match exactly what we saw in their first few months when the outlets opened, which was a really great destination, but that it will be more long-term.
So what are you wanting to do today?
I think today that, first I'd like to allow Ms. Boyd and Ms. Ritchie to kind of explain their parts as far as their vision, because I think we all need to hear. I know we heard part of that last week, but really give them a chance to kind of talk, let you all share any questions you may have, because I know those questions about the deed with what was originally created back in 2009, and how does that impact the work they're planning on doing, and what we had committed through some CO bonds back then. So I mean, I'm pushing it in that we will still have more opportunities to talk about this and finalize a vote in a few weeks or however many.
So we're not
weeks it
voting on
takes.
this today?
I don't think so. I think that what we are looking at is having a discussion to move between the two, between representatives, between us, the county attorney's office, and their representatives, just to work out any concerns. I still have concerns with the junkyard, stockyard language, make sure that that's protected, because that may not be part of their goal, right? And I believe that. But if they sell this property in 10, 20 years, and we're not here, there's no one really to hold them accountable, and they just look at what the letter of the language allows, then that could potentially open it up to
a dump yard.
to some problems in the future. Now, I do want to mention that our partners at the City of Robstown totally support this, and so I support that as well. I think that they understand the importance of trying to bring in great facilities so they can collect on the tax revenue that they've lost out as the outlets were kind of dwindling, and then really with the hit of COVID. So, they're looking for a shot in the arm to boost them back up, and that's what I want to. But if we can just work out the language, or if the judge or the rest of the court chime in and don't have issue or feel that we can move forward, I don't have a problem with that. I just think that the next step could be that we have some discussion, work out any kinks in the language, and then come back for final approval, perhaps maybe as soon as by the next meeting.
So before she gets going, let me just ask you, because I
Yes.
think I'd sent,
Yeah.
sent you some information. My question was, my understanding, not my understanding, I think is right. The county spent a lot of money, $1 million plus, I think, on RV hookups. So my concern would be obviously that we allow this, and we're going to be competing with ourselves, if you will, which would be a little concerning to me, considering the amount of money we've spent out there to do that. And maybe we need to be looking at how to make that a better situation. But I'm certainly still have reservations about adding mobile home park, because this goes into a lot of detail on, that seems to be a big part of what they want to do. And the junkyard, I think I mentioned that the last time. I'm in general concept, I'm fine with making some changes and allowing them to be more competitive, but then at the same time, I don't want to compete with ourselves, that we went out and spent $1 million, I think, on RV hookups so that we could do that, because that is a very profitable business if it's done right. And no offense to them, but I'd rather us do better with it than them, and because.
Well, and that's why I want Sherilyn and Tiffany to kind of chime in, because that was one of my concerns. I went in when I met with them on Monday, was that. And, you know, we'll let them talk more about it, because I agree. I mean, we don't want to compete against ourselves. I think what their long-term goal visioning is you bring in people, you want to term them, you know, winter Texans or whatever, or tourists, you know, that are going to come in short-term, and they're going to go next door to shop or to go to a nice restaurant or take part in the other parts of the design that they have. What we have in the hookups in the back, those are great and they work, but they work when we have the overflow from Buck Days, when we have our own Cotton Fest, when we have the Junior Livestock Show, when we have the carnivals and other events that come out there. Those really work well for the vendors or people that are staying short-term. There's a little bit longer than what I would deem maybe a weekend. The people I think they're looking for is perhaps a week or two, right? Or maybe a couple of months because, you know, of the weather. But like I said, let's let them talk about it. But I think that I hear what you're saying, and I agree. And that's why I also wanted us to have a chance to chew on it a little bit more, because that is a concern, right? I don't want to put us in any kind of burden where our original cost and commitment before the court, I don't think anyone was on it. I think maybe Commissioner Gonzalez was maybe just on the court at that time. But we want to honor that, but also I think it still may be they're not necessarily competing. I think that when we have events, there will be overflow for one facility or the other. But I think that cowboys that come in with their trailers that are doing a weekend event there at the fairgrounds in the equestrian center are going to just want to hook up and be right there within walking distance with their trailers and everything, instead of parked over at a KOA or whatever campsite fairgrounds that they're, or RV park that they're looking at. I think it's two different.
And I'll be honest, John, someone just sent me a reminder on it, and that's why I sent it to you.
Yeah, no.
Because I'd forgotten about it, honestly, and knowing how profitable that business is for us in Port Aransas and on the island, I just want to make sure that we address that and look at that, because we may want to look at, if we think that's a good area, we may want to think about beefing up what we've got to make it more than what it is an overflow. We may want to be in that business because it's a good business. There's a reason, right? And I mean, so if we're not voting on it today and we can have more discussion, that's great. But I do, because I haven't been out there and even looked at it, but I would like offer, maybe you should have some conversations with Scott Cross, because, he can show you what we've done out there. I mean, anyway, as long as it's on the radar of, I brought it up, we need to have a discussion. I'm not sure how I feel about that part of it. I'm still a little concerned about a junkyard language being in there. There's somebody that's obviously got a reason for this, and that makes me a little nervous putting a junkyard out there, but for sure. But the rest of it, nothing else seemed to be offensive.
I think if we
We'll let Sherilyn and Tiffany also can chime in. I just want to go on record as saying is that although I have the utmost respect for Loch Lord, most of us do that practice law or did practice law, I totally believe that number 2 and number 3 out of their proposed amended deed restrictions could be completely rewritten. In other words, I don't have a problem with number 1, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8. And this court, will have an opportunity to consult an executive session with our lawyer about those. But the issue here is number 2 and number 3. And I think we can do a much better job of crafting what we want to see and then give them a chance to accept or not accept. And then let me just give you another idea. Take them out completely. And if and when an opportunity arises, come back to this court and let's have the opportunity to discuss it and see what that is. And that way you don't, when they decide to sell, and they will at some point in the future, because unless you're, the Dallas Cowboys and you never want to sell, everybody sells. They're in the business of selling. They're in the business of taking an asset, buying it inexpensively, investing in it and turning it. That's the market, and we need to be honest and understand that market. And so these deed restrictions are not for them. It's for posterity. It's for the future. So we need to be very thoughtful and very careful. There's a way to be both encouraging of the economic investment, which I am, and that's why I say number 1, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8 are all fantastic. And the ones that are going to be tricky, clearly, are 2 and 3. And I would suggest we work with our county attorney and give her some guidance of what we'd like to see in executive session. Then she turns around and goes into work with Lock Lord and see what we come up. And then if we come up with nothing that's mutually convenient, no harm, no foul. We still want to tell Crossroads, hey, bring us everything you've got and give us a chance to take a look at it at that time. That protects the county. You don't want to create a deed restriction removal for forever, because they won't be here for forever, because the only thing that's forever is Nueces County, you know? So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and I'm excited to hear their ideas, and we'll ask them now to unmute.
Yeah,
I can say something.
I thought there was a language when we built those, that we wouldn't build anything else around the fairgrounds that will be competing against Nueces County. I don't know if it's in there or not, but also I think as far as the deeds, I don't know, Dale, I know you mentioned something about the deeds last time, and I don't know where we stand on those deeds.
Yeah, we do have an opinion from Blakely that since the COs were paid off,
There's no issue.
no issue on the restrictive covenants anymore. I just forwarded that to you, Judge.
Yes, I saw it. Thank you.
I just want to suggest, what is the outlets out here doing that, or not doing what the outlets in in San Antonio are doing,
Well,
that makes them successful?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can surmise that the reason is they have a different set of stores that basically are high end.
Yeah.
They actually do a little bit of everything, but they have tons of high end stores, so they draw from a metroplex of Houston, Austin, San Antonio, which encompasses 6 million people plus. And yeah, and we never got the premium stores ever established. And so what happened is you're competing with discount stores or competing with local discount stores. You're never going to win that war. So you got to have something that's more elevated. By the way, that was the promise. They just never did it.
That's right. So, thank you.
Sure was.
Okay, ladies, welcome again.
Thank you so much. Tiffany, I'd like for you to speak to what our plans are in reference to the KOA park real quickly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, so kind of the idea we had in mind is one of the things that we talked about was we'd like to partner with the county with bigger events happening in that area. I know we talked about PRCA events, rodeos, music festivals, things that are multi-day events. And as Commissioner Matas pointed out, the RV hookups that are already at the fairgrounds are really more relegated to a vendor or somebody who might be kind of working behind the scenes. So we thought since we have a lot of vacant space, we could set something up that might work for somebody who's there short term, but maybe more than just overnight and wouldn't need such close proximity to the event location. So that was kind of our idea. Originally, Hilton was going to build a hotel there, but then they kind of backed out. And so not having any lodging facilities out there really inhibits the types of events that you can be successful with.
Thank you.
I'm just
May I
going to
speak?
reserve judgment on that one for a while because I really would like to go through that one later. So.
Sherilyn?
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all so much. Appreciate y'all listening to us today. We really, I grew up in that part of Corpus Christi, and I've always been very passionate about how wonderful things can be out there. And I really believe we can make that a real business, entertainment, cultural venue. And by partnering with the county, I think we can really help that be a focal point to draw people to. We have no desire to build a junkyard out there. I agree, take it out. I do think there is opportunity there for a KOA facility that hopefully will have enough business that everyone can benefit from that, including the county. We're not looking to take anything away from the county. We're looking to add and make all of it prosperous.
And all your track record shows that, and that's what's exciting. And I just want to say that when you look at 2B, Sherilyn, I don't think anyone's going to not enjoy the idea of a winery or a microbrewery or a distillery, right? That's all very exciting and also quite popular with the younger generation. And you see this in a lot of small towns like, Fredericksburg and some of the smaller towns that have a lot of history, like Robstown has a lot of history. So I think that 2B is good. I think that the real sticking point is going to be in the definition and description, so it doesn't stay so open-ended. We all kind of can agree that there's got to be a win-win here, and I bet we can Scribner our way to it. It's just a matter of getting the opportunity to hear from you, and I'm sure commissioners are going to want to see, some of the language, but like trailer, labor camp, junkyard, stockyard, probably not the best descriptions to get a commissioner's court to get excited about. And neither is smelting, by the way. Smelting is never a good idea right next door to an event center where weddings are going to take place. I'm thinking about getting married, and I don't want to be next to a smelter.
I don't blame you. I wouldn't either.
Wait, you're thinking about what, Judge?
I have a ring, sir.
Oh, well, congratulations. I didn't know that was, golly. We'll have to have a party out there.
Why we digress, I do not know.
Because you said you're thinking
Well, because you looked at me like it was impossible.
That's kind of a big statement. I'm thinking about getting married. You don't just
Yeah.
kind of blow by that.
That's true.
The county
That's
judge
true.
thinks of getting married.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, we should screen him a little
The
bit more.
point
then.
is that maybe I want to get married, right there.
Should we go ahead and vet him, Judge, a little bit farther or a little harder? Or what?
Yeah, you know what? He probably wouldn't make it.
We digress.
But we digress. But the point is that, Commissioner, you have the floor. Would you like to, allow the county attorney a little extra time to work with Lock Lord? Do you feel, County Attorney Dorsey, do you feel like you've kind of heard from us a little bit where you might want to go to the next level as far as having discussions with Lock Lord?
Yes, we have talked about this. We have a summary. Excuse me one second. Do you have anything to add from the summary? Do you have anything to add from the summary? Okay. Yes, and I can meet with, get input from anyone who wants to specifically add or change anything.
Okay.
Other than what you've said here.
So we can email the county attorney and give her some thoughts. You can call her, give her some ideas. But I think the nice thing for Crossroads District is that you have overwhelming support for the majority of what you want to do and maybe everything that you want to do. Sometimes it's just in the, gosh, we didn't really mean it that way. And we say, well, gosh, we don't mean it the way you mean it either, right? So I think if we'll allow the lawyers to really work through it, we could potentially have a document soon. What do you think about that, Commissioner?
I'd like to see the next meeting if we can. I know we're already putting a lot on
Next
you.
meeting, February 10th?
February 10th. That gives us, enough time to work it out, but we don't want to string this along any further for Crossroads District because we know they want to move forward on this
Yeah.
as quickly as possible.
Can we get a motion then to table till Feb
A
10th?
motion to table till February 10th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Okay, great. Well, now you've got some clarity, Crossroads. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Okay. So now, I gotta go back to my agenda. Okay, so now we move on to grants, and that's section B1. Maria is still here with us, and this is discuss and consider the submission of revisions to the grant application to Texas Water Development Board under the FIF Category 1, that's the Flood Infrastructure Fund category for Nueces County Regional Drainage Master Plan Study. And so before us here today is the opportunity to revise our scope to Texas Water Development Board. And I want to lay the predicate and ask Maria to come up We also have on the call Susan Roth, and before you, I think Tyner is getting you copies of the new proposal. But the action today is to basically allow the county to submit a revision. Now, the revision will be explained shortly, but let me explain why we need the revision. There was a letter issued, 2 letters issued by Texas Water Development Board, one on January 13th and one on, give me just a second.
No, December 20th,
Thank you. December 20th, Commissioner?
22nd.
December 22nd. And that, what happened was, they recognized that the grant we submitted back in August and the grant that Drainage District Number 2 and the City of Driscoll submitted had overlapping jurisdictions. But really, more than that, it had overlapping scope. And in fact, there is precedent. Sometimes you can be overlapping on jurisdictions, but you don't have necessarily overlapping scope. But unfortunately, in this case, we had both. We had overlapping jurisdictions and we had overlapping scope. And so the letters received by Texas Water Development Board on those 2 occasions said that, stated that we must find a way to remove the overlapping jurisdiction. And so that is what we engaged upon doing. And we first, in the last Commissioners Court meeting, I believe, non-special, we tackled the City of Driscoll's submission. And in fact, we have adopted their scope in our grant, and that was already approved by this court, I guess 2 weeks ago. And now we seek to do the very same thing with Drainage District Number 2 scope, so that we can move forward with our $2.2 million regional study grant to the Water Development Board. If we do not do this, Commissioners, we would not be able to have our grant move forward to the board's final decision-making body, the Water Development Board Commissioners, coming up in the next few weeks. And we have been given till Friday, so time is of the essence, to work together and find a solution. And I'm pleased to tell you that on Monday night, following a Saturday meeting, Drainage District Number 2 voted to unanimously to work together with Nueces County to indeed put forth one grant that would have very specific parameters, and we'll go over those in a minute, so that we can both make certain that both their jurisdiction and our regional jurisdictions have the ability to have this very important drainage study go forward. And of course, everyone says, you know, what is the essence of this? What is so important about it? Well, we all know after the 2015 floods and after Hurricane Harvey, we learned our lessons of the dangers of water. And for those that have been living in low-lying areas in South Texas forever, we have known that we live in a floodplain zone. And so we've never, ever had the ability in the state of Texas to be able to fund these types of projects, and they're very expensive. And so thank goodness in the last legislative session, Senate Bill 7, there was an appropriation put to the voters in Proposition 8 in November of 2019 that allowed us as a state to vote, and we did in overwhelming percentages, to put $1.4 billion into the Texas Water Development Board's hands in order to allow for a variety of grants. This one that we apply for is a Category 1 grant. It has no projects associated with it. The money is specifically designed for a master drainage study. Just for the effort of the exercise of making sure our public understands, our drainage study grant proposes a huge geographic area because water knows no boundaries. And so you have in front of you, Commissioners, a reminder of the 4 Huck 10 watersheds that this grant will compromise. To name them for our audience, they're Agua Dulce Creek, Petronila Creek, Alasan Bay, which is also, I always call it the Baffin Bay watershed, and Oso Creek. How interesting it is that each of you really do represent all those 4 areas. And so there is a real understanding here from 3 counties, Jim Wells, Nueces, and Clayburgh. And two jurisdictional bodies, political jurisdictions, Drainage District Number 2 and the City of Driscoll, that this is the right way to conduct a study so that we can really understand how water moves with these super storms and super weather events that we've been catching lately. In other words, it's always flooded, but we've never before seen this many torrential, weather events in such a short period of time. So by revising the grant, we can survive. The grant can survive. Without the revision, it does not survive. And we had the opportunity through Zoom to have a very productive and informative call with Drainage District Number 2, their consultants, their staff, and our staff last Monday. No, not last Monday, this Monday. Every day seems like a week. Monday, to really help us understand what our fate would be. And so we believe that we bring to you a strong proposal that in essence brings us what we want, and which is a master drainage study. And the other day I left somewhere and I said, anyone like the Rolling Stones around here? Connie always says, yeah, she's my music girl. Well, one of my favorite songs is, you may not always get what you want, but you are going to get what you need if you try. And that's what this is about. This is about each jurisdiction having to give up a little in order to get what we need. It may not be what I wanted for our county, and it may not be what they wanted for their jurisdiction, but it is together what we need if we try. I'd like to go over the essence of the proposal, but first I'd like to bring Maria up to give us a little bit of important information with regards to how we would go about it. And then Maria, if you want to pitch to Susan, that's your, you may do so. But I needed to set the table so we understand why we got here.
So I'll leave the technical details of what the revised scope of work will be. I'll leave that to Susan. So the process from here moving forward would be to revise the scope of work and turn that into Texas Water Development Board. Now, mind you, this is still an application phase. There is no transfer of money at this point. And then I also want to remind everybody that this is a reimbursement grant. So whatever monies are received are based on a reimbursement provision. Water Development Board, we have a current grant unrelated to drainage, is actually, well, kind of, but we have it for Cindy Park, and it requires monthly outlay reports. The Water Development Board reviews those reports for accuracy, for eligibility of the expenses, proper procurement, things like that, and then they reimburse on a monthly basis based on those reports.
So would it be fair to say is that in order to receive dollars, you have to abide by the rules?
Yes.
And that's not just for our jurisdiction, it's for all jurisdictions?
That's for all grants, yes.
All grants, right, okay.
Yes. So, they're pretty stringent. Part of my job is making sure that, the public and the county and the commissioners and, we will be, if we are awarded this grant, again, this is still just an application phase. If we are awarded this grant, Nueces County is the responsible entity and the fiscal agent. So we will be responsible for ensuring that those dollars are spent properly and in accordance with the application guidance that was put out by Water Development Board. So with that, again, we're still in the application phase. Susan is working on the revised scope of work based on what the decision is today.
And Maria, can you answer for the court? It's our intention that with this revision, it does not change anything with regards to the match or to the in-kind contribution. So we would not expect anything else of Drainage District Number 2 with regards to match or to in-kind contribution. Is that correct?
So we are only requesting to revise the scope of work. And then based on that, it might change the budget just a little. We are not asking for any sort of commitment other than, just kind of on in the spirit of working together, and I believe we already have an MOU with Drainage District Number 2 that says that we're going to work together. We did do a joint letter between the county and the city of Driscoll regarding, incorporating their scope of work. Again, we are not asking for them to contribute to the in-kind or the cash match that the county and Jim Wells County and Clayburgh County have already put forth. I did reach out to Jim Wells and Clayburgh County. It's not required for us to submit it with our revised scope of work, but we did go ahead and, again, in the spirit of transparency and cooperation, I did reach out to Jim Wells County and Clayburgh County for just kind of a revised letter saying that, they're in support of the revised scope of work to include the Drainage District scope of work as well as City of Driscoll, and they are in agreement. I should be getting their letters by the end of tomorrow.
And both county, I'll note for the record that both county judges attended, the meetings where they showed, their support. One other question that has come up that I think is also important is the opportunity for the Drainage District Number 2 to have their whole budget as it's basically been put forth, task 1 through 7. They have a very specific, a budget that we would adopt. And so therefore, if we were the successful, awardees, we already know what their budget is. It's exactly the budget that they put forth in their own fifth one category as specified to Water Development Board. So we will be transparently showing to Water Development Board, these are tasks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 as it pertains to this jurisdiction. Is that correct?
If we're awarded, there will have to be an agreement of some sort in place with Drainage District Number 2 to kind of delineate out what their scope of services are. And I understand kind of the agreement is, to kind of have them have some control over who is going to be the engineer consultant that's going to work on that particular piece of their scope. So we will still have to competitively procure. Again, that's kind of just across the board with all grants. The Water Development Board, we've been through this here with our other projects with Water Development Board. You do have to provide, bid advertisement. It's all about open and fair and competitive competition.
Right.
So again, if we are awarded, we would definitely have to put an agreement in place. And I have talked to Jenny in the county attorney's office to talk about kind of how that will work if we are awarded.
And we call that process the RFQ process.
The procurement process, yes, would be an RFQ process.
And so the new proposal, commissioners, contemplates a prime and a sub. So the prime, would take care of all the jurisdiction that does not include DD2, and the sub would include DD2. And that RFQ process would be handled. But we have also in this proposal to Water Development Board delineated and spoken to them about this, we're calling it two-step process, and they have agreed that this is an appropriate process and that indeed they would be able to be a part of that selection committee. Of course, ultimately, any selection committee, any procurement comes to this governing body, and basically we get a chance to, it must be ratified by the governing body.
Yes, so Commissioners Court, once we go into, if we are awarded and we go into the RFQ process, obviously, Michael does put on the agenda, to authorize the method of procurement.
Right.
And the Commissioners Court has the ability to name who is going to be on that selection committee. So again, we have the authority, the Commissioners Court has the authority to say who will be on that selection committee and who will ultimately be responsible or giving the recommendation to the court on who will work on the project.
And then finally, I'd like to bring up that, we talk about in any good compromise, we each give up something. That's how you know it was a compromise. But there are benefits. And so I want to point out two of them. One benefit, well, besides the ultimate, which is both grants fail if we don't do this, but the ultimate benefit is that the South Texas Water Center from Texas A&M Kingsville had been a contributor for in-kind service for this grant, for the Nueces County Tri-County grant. And so therefore, under this new proposal, DD2 would inherit those resources that they would potentially, bring to all of us, but specifically we would make assignments to that DD2 jurisdiction from the South Texas Water Center. And it's always great to have a research facility behind you.
That's correct.
And then on the other side, so it's a flip, that's what we can bring to the table. And what I think DD2 brings to the table for us that's incredibly valuable is that through another Texas Water Development Board category, Category 4, if I'm not mistaken, they were just awarded $600,000 for water flow monitors. And these water flow monitors are going to be able to be utilized within these watersheds to collect data and provide analysis. We do not have that equipment here in Nueces County. And so that's something that, as you say, they bring to the table that's incredibly valuable. And so that's why I say this is it's a very positive outcome for a very scary situation where you have this once in a lifetime, Texas finally gives you the opportunity, voters finally say, yes, we want it. And then you have this situation where you have overlapping scope. And so now we get a chance to solve the problem and still allow those concentrated efforts in the areas that we know have prolific flooding. I'm going to keep looking through my proposal because I know there's 2 more things. But at this time, I just want to remind everybody that it's our duty, at least in my office, to keep everybody apprised and up to date. So if you're wondering if the legislative delegation has been updated, they have. They've also given letters of support, as is the city. And then there's just a whole litany of people that have given letters of support, but all the research institutions, all the major cities, the port, it just goes on and on. In particular, I think it's important that you know that our grant concentrates in water quality as well as drainage. So it's one of those things that there's added value that really makes a difference as you come towards Bishop and, from Petronila, Bishop, and Baffin Bay. Water quality is equally as important. Commissioner Gonzalez, you'll remember the old days where children died of dysentery. That is why water quality matters. So I think that it's time to if you're interested in the technical, we have the technical expert online. But at this time, I'll have Maria field any questions for the court.
And I think it's important to note that, this is a unique time for grants. And I think, I don't think y'all have ever seen my face more than you have now, and I apologize for that. But, it's a busy time, and there's a lot of funding coming down from federal governments to the states. And so it's unique. So I want to, at least while I am grants administrator, I do want to say that this is not going to be one of those studies that kind of just gets put on a shelf and nothing's done with it. We've already put forth, some drainage related projects, but without the science behind it, it is hard to, justify, how we're going to get this done. So, I mean, this study is infinitely important, not only to Nueces County, but to Jim Wells, to Clayburgh. I mean, throughout the entire communities that it hits from, Alice to Kingsville. So again, this is much needed to develop future projects. So, I mean, I wanted to make that known.
And what's exciting is it doesn't hold back current projects. So currently, right now, we have 2 2015 flooding projects that we put forth by this county on behalf of really your commissioner's precinct and Commissioner Amatis's that are they're probably $7 million worth of projects. So while it will bring the best science to bear, it doesn't hold back those awesome opportunities that we find ourselves. And then there's a final thing, and that is that there was a motion made by DD2 to work together, and we basically presented this proposal. And but we needed to shore up, if you will, the proper resolution per TWDB guidelines. So we have presented to Drainage District Number 2 a resolution by working with basically their lawyer that we provided to our lawyer that would basically conform to the way that Drainage District Number 2 needs to have it in place for Texas Water Development Board. They just have certain ways they like to see it. But the spirit of the resolution you passed is there. It just needs to have the right words and the right order. And so they have to go back and meet to basically complete this. And you all have been provided a copy of this. So I just wanted to say that there's tons of work between this court and Friday, but I'm confident going back to, if we try, we're going to get this done. And it's a victory for all of us, not one of us, but all of us. Questions, commissioners?
Just,
Yes, sir. Commissioner
um,
Modis. I'm sorry, Commissioner Chesney.
yeah, and I appreciate it. I mean, I should have been more involved in this because I had kind of forgotten, and that sounds terrible to say, that the Oso watershed was included in this, which did affect my precinct. So I got wind of a lot of this yesterday, and so there was some confusion. I just want to make sure. I think what I understand now, Maria, is that the resolution that's before us, that has been provided to us, is what the I'm sorry, the DD2, I have to come up with the acronym, that they've agreed, well, they haven't voted on yet, but they're going to go back and get their board to vote on this resolution, replacing another motion that they made. And this would be, right, what your understanding is, and I know Joseph's here, or was, or I think I see him back there, that can speak to that this is the understanding now that we're talking about, right? This is what we would be amending today to do.
Yes, so it just gives further clarification on the motion that they already passed. I think, kind of their motion mentioned, a transfer of dollars. Again, this is a reimbursement grant, so there really is no, money in the bank per se. So it's just making kind of a little bit of clarification on that, as well as kind of, what the proper procurement process is, which is the RFQ process.
And so, obviously, as the judge has articulated, I think we all see the value of going on this together because we don't want to cancel each other out, right? I mean, and it sounds like that's where we're headed. So is it your belief, you mentioned Jim Wells, I think, and you mentioned Driscoll, or Driscoll got mentioned, but is it your belief that everybody now is on board with and in agreement with submitting together and unsubmitting, that's not the right word, withdrawing the other applications that are competitive? Is that your understanding?
Yes, so they're withdrawing their application, but their scope of work will not be lost. It's now going to be absorbed into Nueces County's application.
Driscoll's, as was always going to be Driscoll's,
Yes.
I believe. So
Yes.
same thing, everybody's getting, and that's the point of going in together, so that we get this grant, the bigger grant, and that everybody gets the scope that they want, so that we don't have to get them to apply and us to apply and someone else to apply, right? Okay, and so the other thing, and it's just clarification for me, what I read in there, and I think you covered that, there's not going to be any money changing hands. We would be the fiscal agent, and once their scope was done and Driscoll's scope was done and whatever we're going to do on ours was done, we would submit that for reimbursement. We would have to front the money, but then we would submit that to the Texas Water Development Board, and they would reimburse us, assuming we get it, right? This all assumes we
Yes.
get it, assuming we get it, right? So then that would be the case. So
Yes.
Okay, so
Again, the Water Development Board requires monthly outlay reports, which is basically a reimbursement request. So, we will get the money flowing as expenses occur and are paid.
Okay, and so there's always risk with everything, and obviously everybody understands that there's no guarantees that any of us get this grant, right? The letter that I read said you have duplicative, and I'm paraphrasing, you had duplicative efforts, y'all need to work this out. That's kind of what I got from the letter, and that's what it sounds like we're doing. But obviously, if DD2, and I know Sarah's here too, if DD2 is going to withdraw their, and I'd like to hear from them, but if it is going to withdraw their application, there's no 100% guarantee that Nueces County gets it either.
No.
Just like there's no guarantee they got it, and there's no guarantee Driscoll got it. But the thought is, if we all go in together, then we were able to do it. So I just want to make sure that, because this is, I know the judge has worked a lot on this, Commissioner Mata has worked on this, Commissioner Gonzalez has worked, I haven't. Some part of this is me clarifying and getting up to speed. So I know everybody has worked more on this than me.
I never use the word guarantee we're going to get the grant, but it is highly likely, just based on the scoring criteria. But again, it's not guaranteed. It's still up to the Water Development Board to make their final decision. I believe their meeting is in mid-February. February
Correct.
10th sticks in my head for some reason, but that might be our
Correct.
court.
And that might be worthy of stopping and pausing just for a second and explaining why they do a two-step process. So turns out, even if you have $1 billion, just like when the when GLO has 4 billion. It turns out if you ask everyone to apply, guess what? There's more than $1 billion worth of requests. So what they do in order to make sure that the best applications go forward is they have an abridged application. And that took place earlier. And those scores, okay, help us know whether it's very, 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 very likely that we're going to get this, given that we're not God and we're not them, so we can't say that there's 100% guarantee, but there's 99.99% based upon the scores that we will be successful with this grant. We have been talking to them for weeks. They are tired of us. We've been talking to them so much. And the reason that the score is so important is you realize that when we all go in together, we actually get higher up the chain. Because technically Driscoll scored 15 points higher because they got 12 points for being a rural community, 3 points higher for AMHI, annual median household income. So I think that it's very fair to say that you are accurate, Commissioner Chesney, but it's also fair to say that Maria is also very accurate. She's never going to come to this governing body, nor would anybody say that, that anything is 100%. But the reason that the abridged application and the scores are done is so we can see how we measure up. And if you just take a calculator out and you take 1 through us, where we were even before this, okay, there is plenty of money in the bucket to be awarded. So we score high enough, but even before this, to be awarded these dollars. With the combination, we even elevate more. And so I think that understanding this, and I'm glad that you're going to take an active role, because we started this in 2019, and I've attached a timeline. And sometimes it's easy to forget how projects have been a part of it, but it's all our responsibility to, be engaged at every single day. And it's, why my life is helter-skelter, but it is what it is. This is one of the most important things all of us are going to be able to be a part of, and it's exciting. I think Senator Hinojosa's words were, it's very historic, and I think that's pretty accurate. Senator Lucio will be in town this afternoon. He is one of the authors of this bill, and he was over the moon about it. And so I think I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you very much. And so that you don't have to speculate, I know Sarah's here too. Can you just comment? I mean, first of all, if this is as articulated, this is great, and I really thank y'all for doing this, because, it's always a little risky when people go in together, or, things get a little dicey. So I just would like y'all to comment too, if you could, and just tell us where you all on this, if this is what you think your board will do, because obviously we're going to vote on this contingent upon you passing your resolution, right? So so it'd be kind of nice to know, and I know you can't speak, quote, for the board, but you have an idea of what might happen. But I know that y'all put a ton of work into this, so thank you for that. And whichever one of y'all want to talk, both of you, whatever, I'd just like to hear from y'all a little bit, if that's okay.
Thank you, Commissioners, Judge. And yes, the motion that was put forth by the Drainage Commissioners was pending approval from this court, from this body, that they would work together in a joint effort so that everybody basically wins at the end of the day. And like you said, this is historic, and it is important. So once we have your approval that you guys are wanting to work together, the drainage will then meet, and I believe the attorneys are still working stuff out on that resolution, but I think they're close to finalizing it. I know they just got it yesterday, late in the afternoon. So once that's approved, then yes, the board will go back and hold a vote before Friday.
And do you think that they feel good about withdrawing their application and going in with Nueces County on this under the conditions of the resolution that is in front of us?
Yeah, the commissioners' main concern, number one, obviously, is to take care of the residents within their boundaries, which is specifically Petronila and the city of Robstown. That being said, they understand that working together makes it stronger, and they're here to do whatever it is that they need to do to make sure that their residents are taken care of.
And what's important, I think, to note on all this is really the the spirit of cooperation that's being had on this. And let me just tell you, I'm one person, right, of 5, and we all vote equally and count equally, but I will tell you that my feeling is very strong that you should have a very large say in the procurement process, how the selection goes for engineers, for, I read something about subcontract engineer, whatever the language was, I'm sorry, I got it this morning, because I know this is a big deal. I know you guys score better than we do. Driscoll scores better than we do. So you coming in with us is a huge help. Believe me, I won't forget that. If this is what y'all want to do, right?
Yes.
I want to make sure this is you voluntarily doing it, and you want to do it because you ought to have a big say in that. And this resolution clearly articulates that your scope of work will be continued, and that's how it should be. And that's fair, and
And that's important for the mission of the commissioners at DD2 for years. This administration and the previous one, their goal has been to get this done because, as Maria said earlier, this is the way to get more grants in the future. And with the science behind it, you're absolutely correct. It means nothing but more projects come into the area.
Well, if there's anything bad about this, now's your chance. Otherwise, I'm going to take you guys at your word that you're here, that you're staying rah-rah, this is great. Obviously, you can't control how your board votes, but I
Yes.
know you represent the organization in general, so if Sarah wants to add anything, or she doesn't have to. But this is a big deal, big deal. And this is the beginning of a hopefully bigger deal, because what I heard Maria said, and I laughed, I smiled at her when she said it, and I heard her, and she said on the record, this isn't gonna go sit on a shelf if we get this thing. We're gonna use it, we're gonna get stuff done, we're gonna get the scope of work done all over Nueces County. We've been talking about addressing drainage in this county for years. So this is just one example, I think, of people being able to work together.
This study is just ammunition for Maria and the grant department at the drainage and other entities to use to better their communities. So, to answer your question again, Commissioner, the spirit of the motion that was initially put Tuesday night, I believe, was, subject to approval from the commissioners at Nueces County, and that DD2 still gets to incorporate their scope of work into this grant and has the say over the procurement of their engineer consultant firm. Then yes, they're willing to work together.
Motion was, understandably, I'm not trying to beat a horse here, you said it, but I want to make sure, your motion was different than this resolution.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's-
they just, it was
I
an
know.
agenda item,
I
so they
know.
kind of like you guys, you just,
Yeah, it was a talking motion.
No,
Yeah.
right.
And this is the lawyer motion.
No.
And
so
by the
that's-
way, this protects you as much as it does us. And that's why it's important that we all say, look, we got to abide by the Water Development Board's guidelines. And that's why Jerry,
Yeah.
Yetta, and Jenny.
I'm
you
not
know,
an attorney, I just play one on TV, so
Well,
I'll let,
okay.
I'll let Mr. Jerry and
And
your.
Miss Jenny?
Yeah, handle
Yeah.
that.
I am an attorney and I also play
Yeah.
one on TV, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But, okay, so I think, Judge, what you're asking, and I'm not trying to make any motions yet, I know everybody else wants to talk, but I think what we're gonna do is someone's gonna make a motion
Yes.
to amend based on this resolution, based on them passing this resolution as written that we've got in front of us, sort
So
of?
I'm going to amend, we're going to say, the motion's going to be to, exactly how it's written, is that we need to approve the revision of the grant application to Water Development Board under FIF Category 1 as brought forth here today under the new proposal. That's one thing. And then here's the important thing, subject to, of course, the resolution being done
Exactly.
tomorrow or whenever y'all can get it done
By the board.
as soon as possible by DD2.
And
right?
that's probably a pretty good motion if you want to make it in.
I'll just leave it
for
since I've got it
discussion. Okay,
intact.
Okay, I'll let everybody else talk.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, I'll let everybody else talk.
So you have to go back and make another motion? They have to go back?
They have to put the resolution, this is the resolution they have to do.
Oh, they got to sign it and
They
then?
have, yeah, they have to actually sign it.
Okay, I was gonna think they had to go back and have another.
No,
meeting.
well, I don't, they're gonna conduct their business the way they want to, but yeah, in order for Water Development Board to accept it, it has to be in the proper form.
And I just wanted real quick to kind of recap this and, I support the drainage district. You guys have been real good partners, and throughout the years and, for the last 12 years, and you've been excellent partners with Nueces County in working on special projects in not only my area, but I'm sure Commissioner Amato's area. you know, that whenever we need each other, we're there, you know, and I want to thank you for that. I just want to make sure that you know, that, because here was we had made a motion already, you know, and that motion, as of today, is not, what I hear you saying is not going to stay no more. That motion is going to change, right? Because what you were saying and with your motion before will not be there no more. It'll be a different one according to that piece of paper right there, right, to the resolution. So it's going to be amended, right? You understand that?
Yeah, it won't be a motion. It'll actually be a motion to accept whatever resolution they have on their desk tomorrow.
And I think what we're saying, Judge, on the paragraph here that I was given, I guess, 1, 2, 3, and 4, is that we, as far as we're concerned, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that you get this, the scope of work that you had will continue with the same scope of work. It's not gonna change.
No.
So, and the other one will be that you won't have to make a matching contribution, you know that, right? And also that provide the commissioners to serve on the committee, which is Commissioner Chesney talked about the committee, and you have them say so in selection of, you know, the contractor or wherever you need to select. So, you know, other than that, I just, you know, and again, the Water Development Board does not, for some reason, accept this, we're back to square one, right? I mean, it's not like nobody wins, nobody, you know, everybody loses, right? So you have, you know, again, you have to understand that, right? So hopefully, you know, we're going to win, you know. Maria feels good, and if Maria feels good, I feel good. So, but other than that, I think that what we're doing here at the end of the day is that, again, as far as our consultant is concerned, Susan Ross, after everything is revised, Judge, I guess you sign it, they sign it, so then it goes off. Friday's a deadline, so it's got to be in by Friday, certain time.
Yeah, so Susan's been working since Monday pretty feverishly, and that's actually no pun intended. Susan had a terrible fever, so she's been working like crazy to get the new application put forth. But the good news is that the scope is basically adopted. So, having said that, you know.
My support, and I move.
Okay.
Excuse me, Joseph.
Yes, sir.
I came in at the end of all this happening, but when I was out block walking and people were talking to me, there were concerns about the drainage going on. And of course, me not knowing what was going on in Commissioner's Court, I said, well, I'll make sure that, you know, we'll look into that. So if you're telling us that if we join together, join forces, all those areas are going to be taken care of?
Yes. The master drainage plan, as the county as the lead, will include all of Nueces County, Clayburgh, and Jim Wells. The only addendum, I guess you can call it, would be that within the boundaries of the drainage district will still oversee, will still have
Your area.
to be able to oversee that part of the project, choose its own firm to do it, and still keep the exact scope of work as it sits right now.
That's fine. I'm just concerned about the people that I talked to.
Yes.
And I promised them that I would get involved, but everything, it's already been happening, and I applaud the commissioners for that. And I applaud drainage too and everybody for coming together.
Yes, thank you.
My last question, Judge, would be, I'm sorry, Commissioner, do we have to go to our RFPs or not?
RFQ.
RFQ? We do?
And Michael's not here, but what I was going to suggest is that, you know, the minute we hear that we've been awarded it, I mean, immediately, you know, you start drafting those RFQs. I mean, don't wait a second, because it's all about time. You have to give public notice, but we can be swift. If it's about really, you know, again, saying, let's not burn any daylight, you know, let's.
We're already running
Are you?
a
Good.
few weeks behind on the
Right.
project.
But I bet if I asked you, I bet we would know exactly, you know, how to put together between the consultants you have, the consultants we have. They can help immensely by drafting the RFQs, and then what we do is we give them to Michael, and Michael posts it and does all the right things. But
And Judge, I think, you know, we would definitely want to include on that selection committee a significant representation, obviously, from the drainage district to make sure that you have a lot of say on that, and that
Well,
we want to make sure that.
We actually said the whole selection committee
Oh, right, okay.
would be the drainage district, and then Michael Robinson, and his presence is
There you go.
important because he has to make sure that the procurement process is honored so that he can check the box for Water Development Board.
Maybe we put, and that's great.
And that's, I think, in here.
And maybe, since it's on that particular one, maybe Commissioner Mata's, just since he
Okay.
represents Robstown.
I mean, that would be up to them,
But
but
that's up
sure.
to them, but for sure, we
Okay.
want you all to have a ton to say.
Thank you,
As
Commissioner.
long as you feel like that's good, I can vouch for him.
Well, I can't.
He's
really
all
vouch-
right.
I can't vouch for
He's
him,
all
but I
right.
mean, he does represent
If they
Robstown.
want me there, I'd be happy to be a part of that team, because those commissioners are dedicated to the community. It's been a lot of passion, a lot of questions asked, but because they want to do the right thing, because we all agree, we know, like Maria said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with this kind of money and this kind of partnership. And the advocacy that the commissioners have put, meeting after meeting, I mean, weekends, late nights, tons of people in person and watching online. You know, I was on Zoom for one or two of the meetings. I mean, there's been a lot of attention put to this, and it's because we need to get it
Chairman
right.
Torres also said that this morning as well before we came over here. And he said, guys, as long as our community is taken care of, that's my number one concern, our number one concern.
And that it's brought together a partnership that we've never had before. It's never been attempted. It's never been tried. And the Drainage District's done a good job. I mean, Ms. Garcia does excellent work in working with her previous board, who I loved, you know, and Chairman Peña and Chairman Ruiz, and then this current commission. They're doing it for all the right reasons. I mean, I think the agendas are gone right now. I think that the agendas from everyone are gone. We just want to do the right thing. We want to get it done right. We want to do the people of Robstown, the people up at Petronila, and the areas in between that are just unincorporated. We need to get it right for them. And because they're desperate. I mean, the work that Commissioner Gonzalez has been trying to do in Petronila, it's all good and great, but unless we get a solution to the bigger problem, we're still going to be just putting more money into trying to fix those areas, which we can't do. We got to do it all at once, and that's why I know that's been a big part of Judge Canales' efforts to bring in Clayburgh and Jim Wells, is to help us find a solution to this. And you know, looking at looking at the areas on the flood map, you know, so many of the communities I represent are a part of that. Agua Dulce and Driscoll and Banquete, and of course Robstown. And so, you know, I've been very encouraged to see the commitment from the commissioners, Ms. Garcia, from ICE, that, you know, we want to get it done right. And the fact that we have now in place a chance for the drainage commissioners to be our selection committee, that, you want to talk about historic, as Senator Hinojosa said, that's historic. I think once we open up that opportunity, I think that opens it up for many more in the future, to be honest with you, to work hand in hand with us and then with our staff, you know, with Mr. Robinson on purchasing and other ways that we can do it. And Joseph, you got it right too, you know, looking at the data that we get from this, you know, we'll be able to apply for so many grants, whether the county on their own or just for the commissioners for DD2. So I'm really excited about this, and it's, like I said, it's not been for a lack of passion or wanting to do the right thing or getting to where we're at. Whatever it took to get there, to get now, it's a tough road, but that's what we sign up for, I think, Judge, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, we get it. It's going to be all worth it, because that's what it's about. It's about the people. It's not about bruised egos or whatever calls that have been out there, that we're not trying to do it for the right reasons. We are.
Yeah.
But, you know, make no mistake, it's been DD2 that's led the way. That they dug in and said, hey, we have a commitment. When they got the results after the failed bond from a couple of years ago to the bond that passed, that's a big switch in the community. If you all don't know or represent or understand Robstown politics, that's a big deal to be able to see that kind of flip. But it was based on the promises of what the bond could do, but also I think on the commitment that people see the board is, the commission is wanting to do the right thing. And the Drainage Commission has done that. And so thank you all for that. I Judge, if we can motion to.
I think Commissioner
Did we already have a
Gonzalez
motion?
did, but would you
Second?
second it?
Second.
And
Okay.
can we restate that motion? I know we kind of went through it quick for the clerk, because it is contingent upon them passing that resolution. So,
Start it again, Kara?
yeah, okay, fair enough. If you've got it and you're clear, and that's all I need to know.
Video. Kara
enough.
says she's willing to watch video.
Fair enough, that's fine. You got
Okay.
it? Okay. Never mind, we don't
I
need to
really
redo it.
We'll send
You
some
don't mind?
popcorn.
And County Attorney, I just, quick question, I'm assuming you've
Thank
looked
you.
into all this and everything looks okay to you and everything's fine?
I'm told as soon as they meet and do everything, we'll be fine.
Okay? Fair
Thank
enough.
you. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Okay, great.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, guys. Stay well.
Commissioner
much.
Robert, it's good to see you there. I haven't seen you at one of the meetings,
I
but
know.
proud of you there. Thank
Same
you.
here, Joseph. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So guys, I'm going to tell you, we have two more items, but they're now in executive session, so I'll have to ask the audience, after I complete the reading of the required notification, to clear our courtroom, because we like to use this place for social distancing. I hereby give notice that Commissioners Court is electing to go into executive session to discuss matters listed on the agenda when authorized to do so by Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code. In the event the Commissioners Court does go in, I'm going to publicly announce it, which I'm doing, and this is in accordance with Vernon's Texas Code, Sections 551, 071, 072, 073, 4, 5, and 6, 86, and 87. And we're going to consult with our county attorney, including matters relating to litigation, deliberating regarding real property, personnel, termination, county advisory bodies, security devices, or economic development negotiations, or really anything that may be discussed with our attorney in executive session. And upon completion, we'll come out of executive session. We may take up appropriate action as deemed necessary. Thank you so much. The time is 3:28 p.m. I would. Okay, thank you, guys. We're back on the record at 4:29 p.m., back from executive session. And at this time, there's actually no action to be taken on A or B, but I understand that we were going to bring back B for Feb 10. I don't know if it's really necessary to table it, but I got to give you some direction, Tyner, and that's the court's will.
Yeah, go ahead and table, please,
Okay,
Judge.
Judge, I've got Commissioner Gonzalez, motion to table. I need a second.
Second.
Second. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye? Okay, and it was a table to Feb 10, correct, Commissioner Gonzalez?
Correct.
Yeah, so thank you for that. And then, and so that's all that we have with executive session. So I'll move now to the adjournments in memory and ask that, excuse me one second. I'm wrong about that. On item number A, we also are going to table that to Feb 10, where our attorney will bring us back some documentation.
So moved.
Motion and second.
Which item?
Executive session A, we did have a request to bring back documentation on item number A.
We need an action item as well on that.
Okay, so I have a motion then, if you don't mind me kind of articulating it, that we've instructed our attorney Sandy Gomez from Hush Blackwell to coordinate with County Attorney Dorsey on the subject matter of an amendment to our Corpus Christi Polymers LLC tax abatement agreement, and that this amendment shall be reviewed by this governing body on February 10th in executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, now I'm going to say that it's time that we acknowledge that we've concluded our agenda. I want to thank everybody for these special meetings. Our next regular scheduled meeting is February the 10th. And at this time, I'd like to see if there are any adjournments in memory. Commissioner Hernandez.
None.
Commissioner Mares. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Got 5.
Okay, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Rachel Medina passed away on January 9th, 2021, wife of Raul Medina, employee of Justice of the Peace, Precinct 5, 1, and mother of Rachel Fuentes, court clerk for Judge Lucy Rubio. She was a loving wife, mother, sister, aunt, grandmother, and friends who will be missed immensely. We'll miss her, and she was always a joy to be with, according to the family. So our condolences and prayers go out to the family. Roberto Bobby Gonzalez, who passed away on January the 11th, 2021. Our condolences go out to his wife, Jackie Gonzalez, District Attorney's Office, and Ida Gonzalez Garza, County Library Director. He was employed for the State of Texas Department of Insurance Division of Workers' Compensation and was also a licensed State of Texas real estate agent. He will be missed by family and friends, and it's always a joy to be with. Our condolences and our prayers go out to the family. Jose Mondragon passed away on January the 9th, 2021, at the age of 93. Joe retired from Don Hopkins Automotive and Mayflower Moving Company, where he worked as a mechanic. He will be missed by all who knew him, especially family members. Our condolences and our prayers go out to the family. Juan M. Picasso, age 84, passed away due to illness, lifelong resident of Corpus Christi. He will be missed by all his family, but he will also join his wife, who passed away last year. Our prayers and condolences go out to the Picasso family. Lloyd Greer, 82 years of age, passed due to many years of illness. Very active in the community, was involved in county government for many years, and was also retired from the United States Armed Forces. He will be missed by his family, friends, and Mr. Greer was always a joy to be with. Our prayers and condolences go out to the Greer family. That's all, Judge.
Okay, thank you. I was just looking, unfortunately, today, we have to report that there are 8 COVID-related deaths in our county. This is really concerning, although I, always try to reflect on the positive, that we have lower ICU. That just seems like too many lost souls for our county today. So I'd like to adjourn in memory of those 8 whose names we do not know, but whose families surely loved them and will miss them dearly. So I thank you for a great court and move to adjourn, and the hour is 4:34 p.m. for the clerk. Thank you. Mike.